I'm going to report. I'll start with the introductions. So today we have Ursula Dolton. Ursula is a Chief Technology Officer for the British Heart Foundation. As a board member, she brings together a cohesive blend of strategic transformational change, operational and technological capabilities from over 20 years of cross-sector exposure to shape, execute, and implement revolutionary technology-driven visions. She joined British Heart Foundation in March 2016 and was appointed as the first CTO for the charity in 2019. Prior to joining the BHF, she has led digital technology transformation and held senior positions across Citigroup, Jaguar, and Land Rover, and Cadbury, etc. Just yesterday, she was named in the UK top 100 CIO list for the second year running, in addition to being named as a UK Marketing Magazine top 50 customer experience leaders in 2020. And next we have Chinthi. Chinthi is a career technologist with over 20 plus years of experience in IT, a pragmatic thinker with a disciplined style of communicating across both business and technical arenas to continuously create, manage, and execute a vision. She reverse migrated to Sri Lanka in 2014 after spending 15 years in the US, where she led, built, and expanded accounts as part of the client services arm of Weerasinghe Corporation. She currently heads Mitra's digital arm, or as of yesterday, Mitra Innovation. Is it in Mitra Innovation? Yes. As the CEO of a successful career at Weerasinghe, where she was the vice president and global head for one of its largest solution practices, and has more than 16 years of sales and business development experience. Her passion is to serve a community, especially other women in the IT industry, and help them progress in their careers to be the best they can be. Over to you, Chinthi.
Thank you so much, Natalie and Ursula. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to be in this discussion. And before I get started, congratulations on your recognition to being, among the 100 CIOs in the UK. So congratulations on that. Ursula, when you and I first got talking, I realized that you followed such an interesting path to get to where you are today. So I guess for our listeners, because I think that background is really impactful and has made an impact, can you share a little bit about that background and what's got you here?
Thank you, Chinthi, and of course, Natalie too. I feel so privileged to be here with all of you virtually. So first of all, I have to say thank you to you as well. I'm proud to say that, actually, to give you a bit of background about me, I'm proud to say that I'm born and bred in Sri Lankan. So although I have lived in the UK for the past 24 years, I'm very much in touch with, what's going on in Sri Lanka, and especially the opportunity to actually discuss with you and to get in touch with the Sri Lankan tech community is such an amazing opportunity. So a bit about myself. I started my career as a C++ programmer. My first job was at Cadbury. Yes, the chocolate manufacturer, absolute dream job because I love chocolates. Then I joined Jaguar and Land Rover as a postgraduate and was there for 10 years, nearly 10 years, doing various positions from business analysis to projects and program management. They invested a lot in me, for example, sponsored me to do a PhD as well as the opportunity to become a Lean Six Sigma black belt. So then I moved industries altogether and joined Citigroup doing a global role, but based in London, and then joined the University of East London to lead their technology transformation. 6 years ago, as Natalie mentioned, I got the opportunity to join the British Heart Foundation and again, leading technology transformation. And then I became the first executive board level CTO for the BHF. At the moment, I'm responsible for all things technology at the BHF and super excited to be here with you.
Awesome. And what a wonderful story, and what a wonderful series of choices you made. And through it, it's very clear, right? May it be career, or I know through our conversation, even in life, you've made some tough choices. Can you share a little bit about some of those choices and why it's important for women, for anyone, but especially women, to make those choices their own and for themselves.
Indeed, Chinthi. I feel like there have been quite a few difficult choices. I think, as you say, we always do that, but some more than others. I was talking about this at a leadership summit recently as well. So sometimes when you're female and young, you feel like you cannot be a career woman, a mother, and a wife. You can't do all of those at the same time. So you feel like you have to make choices. In my case, 25 years ago, I made the first key choice and decided that my education comes first. So I went to university for a good 10 years. I totally focused on getting as many qualifications as possible. I was on a proper mission. I went for did my BSc, MBA, PhD, you name it. I was in this mission of collecting certificates, I think. Then second big decision was when I left a perfectly stable job at Jaguar Land Rover and joined Citibank, took on a global role, moved to London on my own with a 2-year-old. There were tough times, but it really accelerated my career, and I'm really glad I made that decision to do so. Then just last month, I made another big decision. You can call it a choice, to step down as the CTO, my current job for the BHF, and go back to financial services. So I'm stepping into the unknown at the beginning of 2022 again. So, however, the biggest lessons I've learned are that you do not have to make a choice between being a career woman, mother, and a wife. You can be your whole self and still be successful. I had to learn to do that by breaking down those self-imposed barriers I myself had created, building a support network and a network of sponsors, and embracing and establishing my personal brand. Chinthi, I can carry on this topic, but I'm sure you have plenty more questions to ask me.
Absolutely. And there's actually one online here that has come in. And I want to ask all of the listeners to please put down your questions. I will find the appropriate time. And I think I see one from Barney. I feel it's appropriate now before I go on to talking about 4IR and digital transformation, which I'm dying to do. So one of the questions Barney asked is a great one. What are some of the strengths you believe that have helped you succeed in your tech field to get to a leadership position?
I think it's having that can-do attitude. It's because it's the can-do attitude, especially when you're in tech. There's always something new to do, and really going for it, and that hunger to learn. Because I feel I'm always curious. I always want to learn, and I always want to say, actually, there's nothing I can't do if I set my mind to doing it. And that's what you have to do.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point, because a lot of times most young people say no to themselves without trying it, and or it's because it was slightly difficult. I always tell everybody in my team that sometimes an opportunity comes and it might not look as great like an opportunity, but it is definitely opportunity to sort of really go out there and grab that opportunity full steam ahead.
Agree, totally. And it builds your resilience then, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
That's what we need today.
Yeah. Okay, so there have been some questions. I'll just ask this before I go on to the digital stuff. So one of the questions are, what are the possible barriers for tech industry startups from your perspective?
The barriers are, as with any startup, not just tech, you have to have that focus. You have to have that idea, that vision, and really keep going. Because sometimes, Chinthi, you've been in this, and you've started up, this amazing organization. Now you're a chief executive as well. It's get that idea, get that vision, start, And you're going to find the first few months, sometimes the first few years are really tough, but don't give up because you have to keep going. Sometimes you may have to slightly change that direction, the course of travel. But if you got that focus, it's that perseverance would truly make you succeed. I mean, Chinthi, your evidence here, I'm sure you're better placed to answer it than I am.
I guess I would answer that question in terms of like you said, with regards to any startup, assuming that you've done your market research and you found your niche and you want to move forward. I would really look at finding the right kind of talent. So I started with the right people. Right, making sure I had people sometimes more qualified than you are, right? Yes. To be able, and the best at that job, it really is what we need to go for. And then really look at strategy. How do you acquire clients? How do you really differentiate? How do you do that strategy part of it? Very, very important. And laying that out for 3, 4, 5 years out if possible. Then execution, have a strong execution plan with key KPIs that you want to achieve, that you can always go back and look and measure against and say, hey, I didn't achieve that. What do I need to fine tune and tweak in order for us to sort of execute? And then obviously this is sort of maybe just normal business, but getting your financials right from day one is very, very important, and really get your management accounting sorted out. All of that is really, really important from day one. So that would be, I guess, some advice for any tech entrepreneurs out there. I guess this is a nice one. I'm going to sort of merge this into two. So one is, how can you improve leadership skills? And to become a best leader, what are some of the habits that you've developed? Maybe you can start, make it personal, I guess, Ursula.
Yes. I mean, the best habits I've developed are actually, I mean, it's a never-ending journey, isn't it? Being a leader, it's you're always looking at improving yourself, and that's one of the key things. I'm constantly, as I mentioned earlier, I'm curious. I want to really better myself. I want to see how can I be there for my teams, my people, for the business. How can we really achieve much more as a business? And most of all, how can be my better self constantly? So that comes with that. Sometimes we always say actually working 24/7 is being this really visible leader. Not necessarily. You got to really put your well-being first as well, because if you're well, if you're really focused and all that, you can be that really better, stronger leader. I mean, it's a big topic area, and Chinthi, you yourself is a really well-known leader. I'm sure you agree with quite a few of those things.
Oh, absolutely. I think leading yourself, I think first is the first example, right? Can you be, can you lead yourself to be successful? Can you, are you the example? I guess the second thing I would put there is I always put trust of people before. I feel if I build trust, business performance will always follow. So in order to do that, creating that safe environment for people to be the best. And sometimes when people try to be their best, they do make some mistakes. So, you have to be able to allow for people to fail, but fail safely, but not be able to repeat the failures, right? So, failing once is okay, but failing twice is incompetence, they say, right? So, or the same thing at least. So, you create that environment or ecosystem that builds trust, that you can sort of have a group of people that can help you move forward. We are only as successful as a collective, and as weak as the weakest link, right? So we have to be very, thoughtful of that. Okay, I think switching topics on you, I think people would love to hear, with the topic at hand, with the fourth industrial revolution and your experience leading digital transformation. A lot of studies have shown that, 70 to 80% of these initiatives actually fail to achieve the desired outcome. Yeah. You've adapted a digital first strategy at BHF, British Heart Foundation. Can you kind of share what that foundation has been? What's that path to transformation? and how you've been able to sort of manage that organization to deliver the outcome that this initiative is driving towards.
Sure. I mean, what I'll do actually first is, for those of you who do not know much about the BHF, if you don't mind, just share a bit of background about it. BHF was formed in 1961 by a group of medics, because that year over half of all UK's deaths were from heart and circulatory diseases. That's a huge stat there. It's like 50% of the deaths were because of heart and circulatory diseases. So since then we at the BHF, we have awarded 1.6 billion sterling pounds in research grants, which has immensely contributed to research into three main areas, with heart diseases, circulatory diseases, and the risk factors. So some breakthroughs that we all know are like heart transplants, pacemakers, like stents and valve replacements, which we all now take it as the norm nowadays. So, however, there are, these are amazing breakthroughs, but still heart and circulatory disease kill 1 in 4 people in the UK. So, we've made a lot of advancement, but it's still scary. It's a scary stat. So our aim is to invest 100 million sterling pounds each year into life-saving research. So we are really investing a lot in this. So for us to do this, we as a business, we generate income from all of this through retail operations that consist of 750 shops. So I have the responsibility of actually providing a tech service for 750 shops as well. We have a huge presence on eBay and many online platforms, plus we generate income through many digital and in-person fundraising activities. So it's quite interesting from that income generation point of view, as well as we provide a lot of support with healthcare support to these people and the families who are affected with heart and circulatory diseases. So to our digital journey, we actually started our digital first strategy about 4 years ago. And at the time, it was very much focusing on getting the foundations right, because as with many organizations, especially non-for-profits, there had not been much investment in technology. So it was a given. We didn't really think it was that important. And we started with the infrastructure fundamentals, getting our private and public cloud strategy in place to identify the roadmap for the implementation of the right technology platforms to support our staff deliver the right in-person service, as well as the digital products portfolio we identified. So it was digital portfolio was a bit secondary for us. In our transformation journey, our roadmap had a number of multi-million-pound, multi-year programs. However, when the pandemic started in early 2020, as many organizations, we had to pivot to a digital-first model because our shops were closed and our in-person fundraising was cancelled. What really worked in our favor was that we had enough organizational agility, and we already had the foundations in place, very much from those angles of technology, people skills, or called capabilities, and the right governance model. We always say they're the core things, aren't we? But actually so important. So we reprioritized the digital roadmap. We have been assessing our delivery model to get the right skills internally, as well as a right sourcing model, as Chinthi, you and I have been actually having those discussions, so we can actually deliver quickly. So in my mind, it is important to have those strong foundations, identify the roadmap and governance, at the same time have enough agility so you can change direction, reprioritize when business needs change, as it has done in the past 18 months. It's another subject area I can just carry on chatting about, Chinthi. I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you. No, I think you really summarized that very well. And a lot of people, it's a missed opportunity. If you don't sort of transform all of your internal operations, what you just described was, yes, we had to digitize or digitalize, right? you had to digitize your ways of sort of getting those donations, getting that income, but you also use the opportunity to really become agile inside, or you were, and you sort of made good of that. And that is really very, very important. It is a complete overhaul from a transformation perspective that really works, not just taking a bunch of things and just sort of putting a layer on top of it, right? If people try to digitize versus digitalize, they end up sort of having some of these failures. So thank you for touching on that. And I think what's really interesting is you said yourself, right? This technology had not been the prime focus until, you know, a pandemic. And, you know, that's pretty normal. A lot of technology in the past has been about operational efficiencies versus actually, you know, reaching out to, you know, your donors, your consumers of your retail products, etc. That sort of endpoint, if you will. Can you kind of talk about some of the strategies that you followed to actually connect, engage, so to attract, engage, and transact with those, and I guess I should call them consumers as well as donors, right? You have both entities.
Definitely. I mean, we call them customers just in inverted commas because we kind of put all of them into one category. I mean, one thing I can say is, as a technologist, we have traditionally fully focused on getting that platform implemented or digital products delivered successfully. That's been always, as technologies, our focus. Then embedding it and delivering the business benefits is part of the change management and, you know, and the business functions responsibility. I'm a strong believer that it is our responsibility to ensure the solution is delivered end-to-end with an end-to-end focus. So that it is covering the embedding it and benefit realization too, because that makes us focus more on the customer needs, and we develop a fit-for-purpose solution that delivers on customer needs as well as the right customer experience. As you said, it's bringing that focus back to the customer. So my teams used to, and still sometimes say, the business have decided on this solution and it is a bit too late when the technology teams get asked to get involved to enable us to deliver the right solution within the right timeline and the cost. I'm sure anybody who is tech would be saying that business goes away and makes its decisions, and we get asked to do this afterwards. So what I do is I remind them that they also have to make sure that they involve the customer experience specialist teams and business transition teams at an early stage of our technology functional designs and, you know, all those discussions, because sometimes our teams have that knack of, oh, we'll deal with it later. So that's because my belief is that we cannot deliver anything, any digital product or any digital solution in isolation. I take it as a triangular partnership. So we often work with external partners, business functions, and of course our tech teams. When all of them come together with the right customer experience in mind, that's when we deliver the right fit for purpose solutions.
I think you touched on another element, if I could sort of maybe pivot a little bit to that. So obviously working with the various constituents to deliver that is one element. And I think you mentioned sort of getting that buy-in of that solution. I think that's a really, really important step that is taken to make sure that what we develop is actually what's going to address the market need or your business's need. Can you share a little bit about some of the strategies you follow in BHF to get that buy-in process with your business stakeholders or anyone that you're working with, essentially?
Definitely, bear with me. I just realized my power was just about to run out.
Save just in the nick of time.
Yes. Definitely, Chinthi. I mean, at the BHF, we've had to create, well, once when I joined, I created the Enterprise Portfolio Management Office. So it looks very much from a governance point of view, but it's making sure that when these ideas are generated, we are really bringing all the relevant teams together to discuss about it. So we've introduced the portfolio model there, as well as like prioritization and all those things. The key focus has been, let's get all the right teams involved right at the start. And that's the biggest lesson, because otherwise, actually, once we've got all the right teams involved right at the start, we resource them, we agree the approach. Whether you use like Agile, whether you use Waterfall, or whether you use the standard program management methodologies, it doesn't matter, because you're equipped to deal with it properly, and you're equipped to follow the right methodology to deliver it. And you've got that end-to-end mindset as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're also expanding on is really saying get outcome focused. And get everybody aligned on the outcome, and then drive that process internally. I think that's such a great thought process in making sure these digital transformation initiatives are successful, because there's so many moving parts that unless you're sort of aimed at that true north, it can get a little blurry and it can get a little confusing for people, and then you might end up not being able to fit it all in together, so to speak.
Totally.
I guess, the fourth industrial revolution, or digital world, and accelerating digitalization it's all around us. It's in every interaction that we've had, and more profoundly so during the pandemic, right? So for all the younger people who's listening to this call, maybe somebody who wants to build a career in technology, or it's a technopreneur, it's certainly the best time to be part of this industry. And from your perspective, what do you think are the key ingredients that you look for when you're hiring into your team, and what's important to you? Because that might be very interesting for our team members to build and sort of in their respective career paths.
One of the really most talked conversations as well, because there's such a skill gap out there, and I think every organization is looking for this digital tech expertise at the moment. However, something I always look for is, when hiring, the skills and experience, it's a given, they are given. What's really important is that it is the attitude that makes the decision whether you get the job or not. From organization to organization, the culture is different. So you want to make sure that you get the person with the right cultural fit and who will work with you to deliver on your vision. What I really personally look for is it's that attitude, the open-mindedness, drive to learn, people with that growth mindset. It is, isn't it? I'm sure when you're recruiting people, you're also looking for that kind of people.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Ursula. I think in my organization, at least to the most part, every single person, once they finish all their tech interviews, actually go through either conversation with me or the COO, because we are looking for that. We are giving the go or no go when everything else is a checkbox, right? So it's got the technical skills, got the experience, fits our, financial criteria, if you will. All of that is a check. If that attitude or that growth mindset does not come out, does not get demonstrated in the conversation, unfortunately, it might be a no, however great they are, because I think that can, make or break the organization, as I'm sure you have found out as well.
Definitely, yes. And I mean, and then you were talking about to be successful, it's what's needed as well, didn't you, Chinthi?
Yeah.
It's when you look in technology, you can do so many things because it is constantly evolving. That's the beauty of technology, working in technology. And you may be a specialist in one technical discipline, but you've got to be aware of other disciplines too, because technology is so vast and it's growing. It's constantly evolving. So I believe it's like you got to become a T-shaped person. So what I mean by that is that you have a specialism, but you learn and understand that wider tech world as well. So and you really want to learn that way, you know how you can deliver the fit for purpose solution, because we're constantly delivering. When you're working in technology, you're always delivering something. So it's in order to deliver that fit for purpose solution, it's good to be that kind of T-shaped person. And I think that's where it's successful and it's exciting.
Absolutely. If I could just add to that, I 100% agree on the T-shaped resources. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I think sometimes people don't realize, or that doesn't get discussed, right? So knowing the breadth and the depth in at least a few. I think maybe the second thing also is we mustn't forgo interpersonal. So how do we engage with somebody? How do we collaborate with somebody? Those skills in our world is extremely important. And especially as technologies that they tend to be a little bit more reserved and, not out there. But I think more and more now it's all about driving that discussion so that, whatever solution you develop, it is the best. So getting everybody's opinions, collaborating, harnessing that input, becomes, and having that skill to engage is also very, very critical. Now, I had a sort of follow-on question. Do you think the skill sets are different for females and males? I know I'm going to the little bit of a interesting part there.
No, I don't think so. I think all of us as individuals bring something very valuable to the table, whatever the gender it is. I'm a absolute strong believer. A diverse workforce brings more creativity and success in return. It's one of those things, like whether you're male or female, it doesn't matter. You got that ambition, you got that dream, go for it, because each one of us brings something totally valuable to the table.
There's another interesting question asked here. So it's asked the question from both of us, I guess. Who have been your mentors? And can you encourage young people to connect with possible mentors?
I'm a strong believer of mentors. So I have been fortunate to have mentors as well as actually coaches throughout my career. And I also take great pleasure in mentoring, youngsters, because I think it's one of those opportunities that we want to give to that younger generation, show them the way and so on. Yes, every organization I work for, I've always made sure I've had a mentor, and then officially I've asked to have a coach for certain situations, to navigate through certain situations, because it's always good. Something I've really realized, especially the more senior I've got, I've really created that external network as well. So not necessarily only within the organization. I've got a really strong external network, especially in London now, where I know I can reach out to these people when I need some advice and so on. Because as you know, the senior you get, the lonelier your place, it becomes a bit of a lonely place, and you've got to have that support network. But if I can go back in hindsight, I wish I had created that support network from younger days, from my junior days, because I think that would have been even better. So it doesn't matter where you are in your career. It's so important to have mentors, because that's how I've really worked, and that's what really supports me.
I'm so glad you said that, Ursula, because I think when we founded a group of us, apart from actually, talking and making sure the topic of diversity was a topic, and it was discussed openly, and challenges discussed openly, solutions discussed openly. One of the biggest byproducts that we wanted to create was that network. And to some degree, network of sisterhood, that you could actually come in and say, hey, I'm having a really tough time, how can I deal with this? To me, mentorship is a shortcut, right? You get to have access to people who might have done it, and it's definitely a great way to sort of really get that insight and get more information for you to make your decisions. At the end of the day, the decisions or the choices you make are yours, but it is a shortcut to get that. I've always, like to your point, I've always had mentors. Some who have lived with me. So to this date, my boss that I had, when I was very young, back from 2004, still a good friend and a mentor. Even decisions to move jobs sometimes is discussed with him, and is this a good move? Because he might see it from a different perspective, right? And talking it through with others also helps you sort of really decide on those great pros and cons. Getting a lot of good questions here. Okay, so this is a really interesting question. So was there a point in your career where you doubted your abilities and pushed yourself to continue in your career? Any words of wisdom to people in the similar scenarios?
Oh, I think we all face that so many times, not just once in your career. It's one of the key ones was when I mentioned about the choices I had made. It's the second choice when I left Jaguar Land Rover and joined Citibank. I moved to London. I think I must have told you, Chinthi, I applied for this job at Citibank, and I knew I was going to be a project manager in anti-money laundering, and it said AML. I didn't know what AML stood. I had to Google to find out what did AML stand for. So I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to do this? Yes, I did go through that stage. It's not just, am I going to be able to do this? I'm packing my bags, moving to London with a 2-year-old on my own. I thought, well, if I don't give it a try, I wouldn't know. And I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do my best. And that's what I did. So anytime you have any doubts, none of us know everything. And Chinthi made the point earlier, it's surround yourself with people who know more than you do. That's so important because collectively we deliver what we have to. So I never say I know everything because I don't. I'm the first to say I don't know everything, but I'm willing to learn. I think that's the only thing I can say.
Yeah, and I think in whatever you do, I think failure is an option, but fear is not.
Yeah.
You cannot be afraid and not take risks, right? And because I think people grow only in their fringes. Only when you're a little uncomfortable do you actually stretch yourself, isn't it?
Yes.
And you find yourself stretching yourself and really saying, oh my goodness, it is possible. I can do it. And during that stretching process, if you will, you're going to have a few bumps on the road. And every time you have a bump, every time I have a bump, I question, oh man, can I do this job? It's very natural, right? And you have the rhetoric constantly in your ear that you're a different, you might not be that common, there's more males in this role than there are, so that rhetoric's always in your ear. And it's very natural, but we cannot fear that. We have to move forward, take risks and take charge of those risks. Just knowing how to, anticipate it, work through it, is I think where the trick lies. Okay, there's more interesting questions coming out. What are your tips to talk to large audiences, which you will have to do it higher up as you go up? So what are our tips for talking to large audiences, I guess, like this? And, what are some of the tips around that?
Yes, well, I have a total confession here. So as Chinthi said, you have to, you got to have a little bit of that nervousness. You got to have a little bit of fear to get the best, to stretch yourself. So if you asked me about 20 years ago, would I be comfortably doing this? I would be like, oh no, oh gosh, I can't. I didn't have the confidence to do it. So what I did was, because I knew that was my stretch, task, because I knew it was not my comfort zone, I really put myself forward to do that every opportunity I got. Started with small audiences, and there were times I was like, oh, I should have done it better. But again, you never get it right. But the key thing is being yourself. So I constantly talk in front of large audiences. I mean, the past 18 months have been quite easy because I'm talking to almost a blank screen with 2 or 3 people that I can see. But I mean, I've been to so many in-person conferences presenting to these large audiences. Initially, I used to be so conscious of it because I thought, oh my gosh, I have this Sri Lankan accent. I'm very conscious of that. And would they understand me? All those usual self-imposed barriers you have. And then I thought, actually, each one of us got our own way of talking. Each one of us are unique. So now I'm just very much, I look at myself and say, I know my subject matter. I don't, but I'm really willing to learn as well. But I'm going to be myself and enjoy it. I think that's the key thing. Just be yourself and enjoy.
Be your authentic self. Be your authentic self. Definitely. And please avoid the self-imposed barriers or limitations, right? It's all in your head. Yes. Okay, here's another great question. If you had to pick a tipping point or a highlight in your career, what would that be, and how has that changed your life or your career?
Yes, gosh, that's a tough one, because I feel like there's every time there's been a tipping point, it's like going from one tipping point to another one, because I constantly push myself. It has been when I was at BHF, when they decided to actually appoint the first chief technology officer, first board level, that executive position. I had the choice to go for it, or actually say, no, I'm comfortable. I'm going to be here doing what I'm doing because I know I can do it. I'm comfortable with it. I had to really tell myself, if I don't give it a try, I'll never know. And that was that point. It really, really pushed me, really tested my my resilience, because went through a horrendous interview process, and it was tough. But here I am, because you can get to those tipping points and think, oh, am I going to survive? But actually, when push yourself, do it, because 6 months later, you'll look back and think, gosh, what was the big deal about it? And that's what, I mean, that's why I said I've made this, my third decision of going back to the financial sector, totally unknown. I have no idea what I'm really going to get going into in January. But it's exciting because it's unknown, and I'm going to make it be what I want it to be, within reason. I'm sure they'll tell me what I can do and can't do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you nailed it. I think we talked about, that uncomfortable position, that where growth is in the fringes of those, right? When you stretch yourself to your limits, that's when you find that, hey, you actually can do this. If you don't test yourself, if you don't stretch yourself, you are going to, stay where you are, and it's comfortable, but you may not have the growth that you're looking for. So interesting question here. Any plans of returning to SL to work, maybe after COVID settles?
I would love to. I mean, yes, who wouldn't want to be there with the great sunshine and all that? The only challenge I have is I have a 12-year-old daughter and she's at school. So I need to stay here until she's finished her schooling and she's off to university. And you never know, I might actually look to, I'll go back to Sri Lanka, and I would love to do that.
It's highly recommended. I've done it. It's highly recommended.
Yeah, and I'm very envious of you, Chinthi. Totally.
All right. I guess we have just 5 minutes more. For somebody, maybe just to help wrap up, given that this was about for the industrial revolution, digital transformation, being a great time to be part of this industry. For somebody who is on the fence of choosing a career in tech, maybe because they think it's difficult to balance life and work and career, etc. What would you give as your maybe top 3, ways to make that decision and help them move forward?
Career in tech for a starter. I personally absolutely love working in tech because there are a number of career paths you can take, and there's always something exciting to do and learn. I mentioned I have a 12-year-old daughter, and if she decides to go pursue a career in tech, I would fully support her. So I think it's an amazing opportunity. So I would say, for example, every profession has its demands. Yes, tech is a fast-paced industry because it gives you a lot of opportunities and all those. So the top 3 things is know yourself, because by knowing yourself, you will be able to get focused on what you want to achieve. That's so important. And then scan the horizon. So you see those opportunities and then you get to act on them quickly, because it's like, once you know yourself, you're comfortable, you know what you can do. And then when you're scanning the horizon, especially when you're working in tech, you can really act quickly. And finally, do your best, be the best you can be, and do what is right. So I know I elaborated a bit on those 3, Chinthi. It's like, does that make sense to you?
It's perfect. So essentially, ride the wave, don't limit yourself, right? And get, do it with your authentic self. Know your capabilities, your limitations, what you're comfortable with, uncomfortable with, and then be your authentic self. With that, Ursula, I think we should start wrapping up. I want to thank you for your time. Great questions by the audience as well. It made it really, really interesting. I hope we can do this again. And like the audience was saying, maybe do it in person. So with that, I'll hand it back to Natalie for final wrap up. Natalie, back to you.
Oh, yes. Oh, that was good. And thank you so much. That was a great discussion. Lots of insights into both your careers and great words of wisdom and tips for people who are kind of on their way. So thank you so much for your time and great questions. We had quite a few, even from signups, which was fantastic. So thank you. So much. We can continue more of the leadership sessions. Thank you for your time, both of you. If no one else has any questions, we'll wrap up.
All right.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone. Thank